Boxing King Media in association with boxer Spencer Oliver. We are at the launch press conference for Chris Eubank Jr, Liam Smith to the rematch. Just tell me, man, how much of a risk is Chris taking rematching Liam Smith?
I don't think for me, no risk. I think it's a must. Do you know what I mean? At this stage of Chris's career, you know, in the manner that he was defeated last time against Liam Smith, mate. And for me, he had no choice but to reactivate that rematch clause, because he's got to try and right the wrongs of the last result, because it was too conclusive. Like, where would he go off the back of that defeat? Otherwise, the rebuilding process would take too long. So that was a no-brainer for me to go back into it. Obviously, he's got to overcome that psychological damage of the last defeat. But Chris is a strong character, and he's just got to try and go back, rebuild. You know, there's a load of ifs about his performance last time as well, like him getting down to that weight to when he was going to box Conor Ben, taking his body down to 157. Look, we saw the photos; it looked terrible in that. Was there enough time for his body to adjust again, going into the last Liam Smith fight? Because when you get to a certain age, taking your body up and down like that, punch resistance goes. Do you know what I mean? And that's a possibility with Chris, because he had no punch resistance there. We've seen him in the past when he boxed George Groves is a great example. You know, George Groves is a big super middle, heavy-handed, and he was soaking shots up. But when he boxed Liam Smith, he was getting rocked with a jab. He was getting so. Is that because he's getting to the end of his career? Or is it because of the fucking around with the weights before that, with the Conor Ben situation, and then his body just not acclimatising back to its normal self? Do you know what I'm saying?
What about the fact that the perception online is that he's took Liam Smith as a second option? People online, obviously we're going to find out when the presser starts, but people are assuming that he's only fighting Liam because the Conor fight fell through. What do you think? Yeah,
possibly, yeah. Definitely. I think that because of the Conor Ben situation right now, and with him on that suspension from WILDER as well, so globally, we don't know how long this is going to take to clear up now, but that because they're going through that process now, and Chris is probably looking at it going, fuck that. Well, if he goes and gets a ban, if he gets a 2-year ban, 4-year ban or whatever, then that fight's gone, and Smith may have moved on. So I think from a financial point of view and a business point of view, it made sense to not take the risk of waiting for Conor Ben and to go straight into the immediate rematch, which he activated anyway. So I think it's a good business move from Eubank, and he can sort of try and get his career back on track. But it's he finds himself in a situation now, it's make or break, isn't it? Lose, and it's probably the end of the road. But if you win, you put your name back in the mix. So look, fighters get to a stage where they've got to do that.
What about the training situation? That a lot of people are suggesting that he needs to go back to Ronnie and his dad because he might try and employ that Roy Jones style again.
Yeah, I think the Roy Jones style proved that didn't work, because what we know about, stylistically about Liam Smith, is he likes to keep nice and tight, and then he likes to counter off the offense. So when his opponent goes, he likes to attack straight off the back of it. Eubanks was coming out too relaxed, his hands too low, and he got caught with a shot. I think he's got to revert back to keeping his hands nice and high and being prepared to throw offense, defense, offense. You've got to combine them all together, because that's where Smith is at his best, when he likes to get inside and work close. So Eubank can't have that relaxed approach, because it didn't work for him last time. So with Liam, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So you stick to what you're doing. And with Eubank, he's got to go back, and he's got to come back with a new strategy, a new game plan, and also overcome that psychological damage. So he's got it all to do, Eubank. But like I say, for me, it was a no-brainer. He had to go back into this fight.
Do you think Chris has still got it in him at this late stage of his career to trade and stand toe-to-toe with Liam Smith?
That's the $1 million question. Going off you only go off their last performances. Going off his last performance, punch resistance was gone. He looked good in glimpses, but the punch resistance was gone. He didn't recover. So it's got a mountain to climb, man, going back into this one, because you can only go off the last performances, and it was not a good one from Eubank. So it's going to be interesting to see what he says in the press conference, and see what the reasons behind that were, or what he says the reasons behind that were. But as we go, Smith starts an overwhelming favourite.
Savannah Marshall, Francis Cruz, undisputed fight. Somebody suggested this to me earlier. Is this Francois Cruz potentially Charles Martin moment? Do you think she's cashed out here for the biggest payday to fight on the way territory against Savannah, or does she genuinely believe she can beat Savannah Marshall?
They've got history together. They boxed together as amateurs. Savannah Marshall, beat her in a Olympic qualifier back in, in London actually. So they have got history together, and Cruz is an experienced girl, like she's been in with the best. She boxed Clarissa Shields on her debut. She's gone on, she's been undefeated since losing to Clarissa Shields. And it's not a cash out, I think. I just don't think the pool's big enough in women's boxing. And I think it's like, this is an undisputed fight for a super middleweight title. So, that's where you're at with the girls. They jump up and down with the weights. And, like I say, the pool is not really that big. So, it's a good fight. So it's a good fight. Two good operators. And, I'm looking forward to it.
Who's the favourite?
Marshall will be the favourite. Marshall will definitely be the favourite. She's on home soil. She holds that defeat over Cruz as an amateur as well, and she will start the favourite just with where she's been in her career.
I just want to speak to you about your old mate Anthony Joshua. We've seen contradicting statements from not just AJ but his team in general. Obviously, he was so important on Instagram saying he's not going to fight till December, but we've seen Eddie come out and said he wants him to fight in December. Obviously, we don't know what his team 258 want. What do you think he should do if, let's just say, Wilder is on the table, December, signed, sealed?
I'd want to see him fight again before that, going into that fight, because I thought we saw glimpses against Franklin. We saw glimpses of what he needs to do, but we didn't see enough of it. I think he recognises that as well. There's still improvements that need to be made. Maybe a little bit of psychological damage was still there, lacking in confidence. And if you lack in confidence, then you lack in your own ability to let the shots go. And I think that we didn't see enough of Joshua. He needs to revert back to what we once knew. 2015 Dillian White, 2016 Charles Martin, when he was raw and let the punches go in bunches and went for phase one, phase two. We need to see that old Anthony Joshua back again. If he's going to go and make his mark, with these top heavyweights right now, like Deontay, I'd like to see him do one more fight before he goes in with Deontay Wilder. Put it that way, because, like I say, I saw bits of what I wanted to see, but I think there's still more to add. So I'd like to see another fight, but it might be too much of a risk, too much on the line, because as we know, there's huge money, on the table. They're talking about 400 million, weren't they, to host these two fights in one night out there in Saudi Arabia, and that is a possibility. Skills Challenge have got that money to do that. So.
I got the exclusive with the Skills Challenge, and I spoke to them, and one of the things they said is they wouldn't stop an AJ interim fight, but they did say, if it doesn't look good or if it doesn't win conclusively, potentially he could be out of that big fight.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So, when you're talking about that sort of money, you go, well, do you know what? This is ultimately a business as well. Do you know what I'm saying? He's had that warm-up fight. He's got back to winning ways. And now he's got back to winning ways. That'll do a lot for his confidence. So he may feel that he's ready to go into that fight with Deontay Wilder. That's an exciting fight, man. I'd like to see that fight. That's a really exciting fight. So, yeah, I think from a business point of view, you go, well, if that's the situation and that's the way they're feeling, let's just wait 7-8 months and get it on in December.
Well, Amir Abdullah from Skills Challenge said to me, this sport is a business disguised as boxing.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is, you know what I mean? Ultimately, when them fighters are getting in there and they're putting their lives on the line every single time, you want to get well paid, and it's a business, man. You've got to make the right decisions, the right moves at the right time. This could be a huge business, opportunity for all them four fighters involved. Huge money on the table. So why would you... Heavyweight boxing, anything can happen. Do you know what I mean? We see upsets all the time. So why jeopardise that? Why put that on the line, if this is going to come off? Because one thing you can guarantee about this, they're talking about these two heavyweights like Joshua versus Wilder, Fury versus Usyk on the same night. Well, the winner is going to box the winner surely on a separate night back in springtime, March, April time. So it's like a semi-final and a final. So they're not going to put anything on the line until, and to jeopardise that, I suppose. But it's likely it's going to happen, which is wicked, because we've wanted it for so long.
Definitely so. Last question I want to ask you, Spencer, is we've seen Billy Nelson come on Sky Sports, we've seen Martin Bacoli come on Sky Sports recently, and both of them openly talked about what goes on in sparring. They've talked about dropping Usyk, giving Joyce problems. We saw a recent example of Ryan Garcia's sparring partner was apparently leaking information to Gervonta Davis. So you just want to get your opinion on what Billy's been doing on Sky and Bacoli. Is it right or wrong?
Listen, Bacoli's like the chairman of the Who Needs Him, Who Wants Him club. He's too good for his own good. Yeah, he's WBA #2. We've just been out in Poland with the, he just beat the Ukrainian Hulk out there, a guy that was 10-0 with 8 KO, strong guy, but Bacoli just sort of systematically broke him down and broke him apart. But what we saw out there was he's a good fighter. You only fight Bacoli if you're forced into fighting him, because like I say, you know what I mean, he's one of those fighters that's too good for his own good. But he's WBA #2, so soon he will be mandatory, so he will force himself into that position. But the other fighters are looking, going, well, that's a fucking high risk for low reward, that, because he doesn't maybe have the public backing of the other fighters. He maybe doesn't have the profile of the other fighters. He's like the guy that outside of your hardcore boxing fan, people won't know who he is. But I can tell you one thing, mate, he can fucking fight. And he's one of those fighters you just go, yeah, I'm not going to take him unless I actually have to. So
what about the fact that, him and Billy are talking about what's going on in sparring? Is that right or wrong?
Well, listen, what happens in the gym normally stays in the gym. And I think that from their point of view, they're probably talking about that now. They're going, because they're not making up any ground anywhere. Everyone's looking at him going, well, let's just shut the door on him because he's too good. So he's going, well, let me start trying to build my profile a little bit. Maybe that's why he's doing it. We live in a world, Ghoul, as you know, that it's all about, it's all about profile as well. You got to sell yourself. Do you know what I'm saying? Just fighting, just being a good fighter, as Martin Bacoli is, proves that that's not enough. You've got to sell yourself as a person, as a personality. You've got to make the public want that fight. And that's probably what he's doing. Well, that's not probably what he's doing. That is what he's doing. He's been he's a very quiet, polite guy. The reason he's coming out shouting now, calling out Dillian White, calling out, saying what he's done with Usyk, saying what he's done with Joshua in sparring, all that. He's doing all that now because he doesn't want to miss the boat. Now is the time to sort of get yourself out there. He's got the big platform. He's done a deal with Boxer, so he's got that platform now. And they're going to try and build him try and build his character, because he's a funny guy as well, And I think the public will love him, but it's just he needs to do that and put himself out there. I understand it. It's all business again, calling out people. Billy Nelson saying things. It's just a business move. That people must understand that. This is boxing's one big fucking game. Do you know what I mean? That's basically what it is. Do you know what I mean?
Well, on that note, Spencer, we'll leave it there. Thank you for your time.
Perfect. Cheers, mate.